What is up, Silver Screen Savants, aka YouTube? This is episode 19. Wow, we're going quickly with these. And this is this week. It's Anubis's pick, and he chose Lionheart from 1990. It is a Jean-Claude Van Damme film. It has it is directed by Sheldon Leitich, and it has Jean-Claude Van Damme, Deborah Rennard, Harrison Page, Lisa Pelikan, Brian Thompson. It has a young Ashley Johnson, a.k.a. Ellie in The Last of Us. That's who I know her from.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she's the main character in The Last of Us. I don't know if you've ever watched the show or the game.
I'm looking at her updated picture. She definitely looks like, because as a kid you can see it in her facial features that it's her.
Yeah, so Ellie's the main character in The Last of Us. She's this girl that's immune and stuff, and it has Brian Thompson also in it.
Legendary Brian Thompson has a couple of cameos by other martial artists, Billy Blanks and Jeff Speakman. So those are kind of cool notes to add in there with that.
Mm-hmm. I would say, yeah. So the movie starts out in the French Legion. Basically, I would say you have to go back a little bit, just for context, for somebody that's never seen this movie, just to explain it. His brother gets burned by a drug deal, and so then the movie jumps straight to East Africa. Djibouti? How do you say that? Djibouti? How do you say the country where his station?
Oh, yeah, it's Djibouti or something like that. Yeah,
Djibouti.
East Africa.
Djibouti, East Africa. And he receives a letter from his sister-in-law, Helene, begging him to come see his dying brother, who has been calling his name in agony. Leon escapes the Legion in a daring breakout, sets across the desert, reaches a dockyard on the coast, where he finds work aboard a tramp steamer head for the United States. I was going to say, before we continue, I like the escape in the French Foreign Legion. I think it was really cool. I feel like the guy pissed him off a lot. And the movie that came to mind when I'm watching this towards the beginning is the original Rambo. That's the movie I got vibes from when I'm watching this movie as well for the first time. That's the movie that popped straight into my head when I'm watching this. Like, this gives me like a Rambo kind of vibe, when he's walking away in the original First Blood, and he's gone home from the military and stuff. It just gave me that vibe. I don't know about you if
yeah, I'm not really too much thinking of Rambo, but obviously I can see what you're saying. Like just him, getting out of his situation with the Legion, and when he first arrives in America, he's basically homeless. He doesn't have any money, but he's trying to make his way back to the U.S. so he can see his brother who is dying. Which the Legion, he's there to work off a debt, or he's in trouble. So he's not supposed to he's like, it's almost like prison, but he's just working it off through the military there. So they don't grant him a leave to go see his brother in his last moments, and so they're very harsh. So he is like, he made a promise to his brother he'd come look out for the family if anything should happen. So he's like going to break out of that. And escapes, and then gets on a ship, works his way on the ship, and then finally makes it to America. And he finds himself on the streets. Now he has to, but he was supposed to arrive on a ship in LA, but they lied to him and said that they were going to try to keep him working for free on the ship. So he wasn't going to have that. So he ends up in New York. I think that's where his destination is.
That's correct. New York.
Yep.
His Legion commander, anticipating his destination, sends two of his own men to Los Angeles to bring Leon back to the court-martial. He arrives in New York with no money to cross the country to Los Angeles. Leon is attracted to an illegal street fight being run by a tramp named Joseph Eldridge. He volunteers for the next fight and easily defeats his opponent. Joshua takes Leon to meet Cynthia Caldera in
Caldera,
yeah.
Yeah, Cynthia Caldera, yeah.
An unscrupulous organizer of underground fights for the rich elite. Cynthia agrees to sponsor Leon, dubbing him Lionheart and setting him up in a no-holds-barred fight against Sony, a fighter known for heavily taunting his opponents. I thought that fight was a little... I think his first street fight was interesting. I mean, you get to see kind of his skills as a street fighter. And it's kind of like a character build in a sense.
Well, yeah, and that's sort of how they kind of treated the entire sequence of the movie. So he arrives, he finds Joshua, who's running these local street fights. And so it was funny because sort of after this movie came out, you started getting these things called bum fights in the streets. And it wasn't quite as entertaining, but it was like basically taking homeless people and trying to put them into fighting and betting on them. So I don't know if this movie kind of inspired all that shit to happen, but I remember it kind of happening in the media and all that after this movie came out. But he runs into Joshua, who's running these local street fights, and he realizes, oh, I can make money by fighting. And so, the first fight he has is a pretty big dude. But since no one really knows who he is, and most of the street fighting is not really martial arts based, it's just your basic hand-to-hand combat, but he's able to easily defeat this guy and kind of show his prowess, which gets Joshua's attention because, he takes the money that he feels he's owed from the fight, and Joshua knows that he can see like this guy's a good fighter, so now he can think, oh, okay, well, we can try to take you up another level. And they start talking, and that's when Leon is telling him, can you get me to California? I need to go to Los Angeles. That's where I need to get to. Can you get me there? And Joshua, having been part of a circuit, a main circuit of fighting, underground fighting, knows Cynthia from a past experience of working with her. So he says, yeah, I know somebody, I can get you there. And, it's cool because I do like how Van Damme kind of treated his character like he was not trusting of anybody, really. So even when you have Cynthia, who's very attractive, has money, is offering to look out for him and get him into fights, he's very hesitant to really kind of join her ranks. Like, he doesn't really want to be a professional fighter, which is what they're kind of doing. But he does want to make money to try to get to California. So he holds back a little bit in terms of wanting to fight for somebody else. Like, he doesn't want to be a tool for these big time, I don't know what you call them, setup people or whatever, and organizers. But eventually he has to understand, in order to get there to where he wants to be, he's got to get the money. And so anyway, he eventually does get to California, but he discovers that his brother's always passed away. Like, his burns were so severe that it just took his life. And of course, in the midst of this, before he gets there, like, his brother's wife realizes that there was no life insurance. There's no way to cover the rent that they're paying at their apartment. And when Leon first arrives there, he overhears the super telling her that, she needs to come with the money or she's going to be evicted. And she has a young daughter, Nicole, played by Ashley Johnson. And so at first we get that nice little meeting between Leon and Nicole where she doesn't really know who he is, and he doesn't know initially who she is until she hears the mother. And when he first approaches Helen, he's like, I'm here to help, but she's very pissed off. Like, she doesn't like the brother very much, doesn't like Leon, kind of feels like he's to blame for why his brother got into so much trouble and heartache and stuff like that. So she's kind of just putting the blame on the death on him and saying, just go back to wherever you were. We don't need you. So he does step away, not trying to create any problems, but he still feels like he's obligated to help her out because they're in tough times. So he decides with Joshua that they're going to come up with a plan where he's going to make some money and then have Joshua pose as like an insurance guy who has a secret insurance plan that Helen didn't know about, that supposedly the husband had set up. And even though it's not true, but that's, in order for Leon to help, that's the only way he can deal without her knowing that he's doing it. So we get some interesting fights. The second one he ends up fighting. No, the second one he ends up fighting is like some dude in like a biker vest. And one of my favorite scenes is when that guy's fighting another fighter, he's beating the shit out of this dude, and the blood splats on that blonde chick, and she's kind of like licking it up,
Yeah.
licking her fingers and stuff, trying to be all seductive. So there's like the thing you have to understand if you haven't seen this movie for the people watching is that these are street fights. So you have a bunch of high rollers who gather around the pit to watch them fight, whether it's in a garage, a pool, or whatever. There's just people there, the high rollers that spend a lot of money on these fights, and so it's almost like a sadistic thing. Like I even like when Van Damme literally does the whole Johnny Cage punch to the nuts on the first guy that he fights in the vest. The guy with the blonde chick's like, yeah, man, that dude's a pussy. I could take him. And then, you know, Leon's like, oh, yeah, really? And so he tries to fuck with him, but Joshua stops, says, you know, you can't really fuck with the people that are paying our bills here. So don't mess with them. Like, let's go, you know, be done.
I was going to say before you just mentioned something that if Carl Urban was not the role of Johnny Cage, I could see him.
That's the thing. When they initially came out with Johnny Cage in Mortal Kombat, they were modeling it after Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Well, I didn't know that he was originally modeled, so there you go. Yeah. In case anybody
so he never played Johnny, but certainly he was, you know, known for that whole like doing the splits and the nut shot and stuff like that. So, yeah. So, and it is kind of surprising. Even when 1995 came around, I don't know if they ever approached Van Damme about doing Johnny or not, but never happened.
Never in. I don't think he's in the 90.
No, he's not. He was another guy. Or in the 95 version, he wasn't in that.
Wasn't Van Damme in another fighting, like another? Wasn't he a Street Fighter?
Yes, he was in Street Fighter, just not Mortal Kombat. Yeah, so he was in Street Fighter.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Then one of Leon's next fights was with a Scottish guy. So they're in a garage and got the cars all around, and this is where you see where the fighting becomes more harder for him to compete with. He's still pretty good, but the fighters are getting better, and so the Scottish guy is kind of holding his own, slapping him around a little bit. And again, there's no rules here, so they can pinch, they can bite, they can do whatever they want in these things. So it takes him a while to get rid of the Scottish guy, but he eventually does. And you know, now he's starting to build up a name for himself, so they nickname him Lionheart. That's his nickname in this. So, and Joshua, you know, he's like a really cool guy, but you know, he's also very guarded. So he's still kind of working Leon in a way that like he's trying to protect him, but at the same time he knows he can make a lot of money with him. So it's almost like, and we see it towards the end when we get there, that you know, Joshua kind of resorts back to old ways, which almost backfires on him, but you know, luckily it doesn't. But yeah, so then we get another fight for Leon. This time it's in a pool. And this fight's also a pretty tough one for him, but you know, again, different setting, and it seems like he's kind of going to these certain locales where it's not really home base for him. It's like these other fighters kind of like their home base. They're on home field turf, basically. And this fighter is, you know, everyone there is pretty much cheering him on because he's the guy in the area that they know. But again, you know, Leon struggles a little bit to beat him outright, but finally gets the better of him and, you know, wins the fight there. During a lot of this, you know, like I said, Joshua is sending money to Helen and Nicole under the guise that it's insurance money. And then we also have a couple of guys, and I can't really remember their names. I'm assuming Sergeant Hartog is one of them, and then Mustafa's the other one. These are two Legionnaire guards who are sent to chase down Leon in the U.S. So the Legion hasn't forgot about him. They want to bring him back. They're very desperate to bring him back.
In a sense, that's kind of like what this movie's about. You know, they're trying to bring Leon back. They're kind of like the bad guys in this movie, in a sense. And even eventually, you build that point in the movie also with the one the one girl also, that she's up to no good as well. I get that vibe, like she's a part of the plot in it. I mean, you just get that. I got that vibe early when I first introduced to her, so that's just my point of view of it.
Yeah. And the actress, Deborah Winner, does a really good job of conveying that. Like, you can't trust her. She's like very snaky, but even during all this, when Joshua takes them to her penthouse, like, she offers to house them, because they don't really have a place to stay that's decent. And while he's up there, of course, she's also trying to seduce him. She's very attracted to Leon. And she kind of wants that control both sexually and financially. She wants to be able to control who he is, and he's not really falling for that. So I think in a lot of ways that kind of either pisses her off or makes her want him more. Like she can't get something that she really wants. But I do like that workout scene that she has when he first wakes up. It's a nice shot, nice way to introduce her coming back into his life, because he'd kind of left that behind. He didn't want to be a part of her world. But when he didn't have anywhere to stay, Joshua brought him there. But he realizes, he's like, look, if I'm going to fight for you, and this is kind of before the pool fight and the Scottish fight and stuff, but if I'm going to fight for you, then I got to go back and be like, it's almost like Rocky. So this is like where our old comparison would come in. He's not going to be in a rich place. He's going to go back down to the bare bones, jog around the neighborhood, and do it the old school way to try to keep in shape for these fights.
Add that to the list.
Right.
You just mentioned a movie I've never seen. I don't know what it is with those. It's just not as
have you never seen any of the Rockies? Oh, wow. Even NECA will kick your ass for that one.
But funny thing is, I just don't know what it is. I don't, it doesn't, it's not really my kind of cup of tea, in a sense, if you get that. Like, not every movie is for, like, I mean, I'll check it out, I'll watch it, see if it's, but.
Well, the funny thing is, the one that's probably, even though it's the most highly praised in terms of critics, it's actually probably the worst one for me is the first one. And that's only because it's more of a love story than it is about the actual fighting. Now, everything after that is all about the fighting. So, two is about him and Apollo Creed again. 3 is with him and Mr. T, Clubber Lang. 4 is with Dolph Lundgren, who is the Russian, and that's like one of the better ones. And then 5, again, it kind of goes back to bare basics. And then even they did Rocky Balboa some years later, that wasn't too bad either. But again, it's dealing with more of the drama, not so much the fighting, but the drama about the death of his wife and etc. So if you ever find time that you want to sit down, just start from the first one and make your way through. I think you'll eventually enjoy them, but they're going to hit you differently because of what the design of the actual film. So even
the Karate Kids are ones that interesting. I just haven't sat down to watch any of those. I remember sometimes they would be on TV when I was younger, but we didn't, when we didn't have streaming back in the day, with stuff. So now they're on streaming. Like the first 3 are on Netflix. So I'll check those out eventually.
Yep. And so, Cynthia is failing to try to seduce Leon when she can. He moves out. They stay in some house down the street from where Helen is, so he can kind of jog by and check on them occasionally. But he takes the risk because even though he's in a hoodie, the Legionnaires are up in another building keeping an eye on the place where the Helen lives because they know that that's his brother's wife. So they're trying to see if they can spot him. Finally, they do. So they don't catch him that day. But the next time he tries to approach them, in fact, he approaches Nicole out in the street. She's on her bike, which, he's happy to see because that's part of where that money came to give her the bike. So he's very happy. And the girl's very friendly with him. Even at that point, she doesn't know who he is to her family. She just thinks he's a random guy that talks to her. That's when the 2 Legionnaires walk up and they're going to try to take him in. And of course, he's Leon's like, dude, just give me a few days. Let me just fix this shit up and then I'll go back. Like, he's actually trying to be straightforward and honorable about it. Like, he doesn't mind serving his time, but like, he wants to take care of this woman and her kid before he leaves to make sure she's all right. But the Legionnaires, they're like, no, we can't do that. We have a job to do. We got to take you back. So he tries to get away from them and he's fighting with them a little bit. Even to the point that he gets thrown into like a piece of I don't know what the fuck it was, like where a staircase was, but it's wood, and so he breaks it, but he also ends up hurting his ribs. And then Russell, who's played by Brian Thompson, a great actor by the way, he's like the bodyguard of Cynthia, so he's the one keeping an eye on Leon during all this, and he pulls up and he's like, we need to talk. Like, if you got problems, we need to know about it. And that's when Leon tells him, like, we got a couple of people trying to chase me to take me back to, South Africa. But then this is kind of a turning point too. We discover Leon broke his ribs in that fight with the Legionnaires, but Leon doesn't want anybody to know it, so he tells the doctor, to keep it quiet, not discuss it, And so then we're getting this big fight that's coming up. And I know this is kind of a shorter movie than most of the stuff that we talk about, but that's just how it is. But the bigger fight that's coming up with a fighter named Attilla, and he's like a badass. Like, he kills people. Like, it's very, very bad, but he's like the top of the chain. He's the big money. So Cynthia meets with the Legionnaires. Like, this is how Russell and her decide to kind of confront the Legionnaires, because they want Leon to fight this fight. They want to make the money. And they know that Attila is like really hard to beat. So they're kind of banking on Attila winning. So they're telling these Legionnaires, like, look, we just want you to stay out of the way for this fight. Whatever happens, you can take Leon after this and then be done with it. So the Legionnaires are like, they're kind of pissed off at Leon at this point. They're tired of chasing him around, and it's like, they figure one of the main one, he's like, all right, can we watch? He wants to be there when they watch this fight, because they're assuming that Leon might lose too. And then, of course, on the day of the fight, everyone's placing their bets, and Joshua comes up to Cynthia and he's like, well, which way are you betting? And this, of course, is after Joshua realizes that Leon has hurt ribs. Like, he's kind of goofing around with them, like, fake fighting, and hits Leon in the ribs and it hurts. So he knows that Leon's banged up and it's not good because this is a big fight. So as it goes to the betting thing, Leon gives his own money. He says, I want to, I think actually Leon bet his own money, but the money that they were going to put in together, Joshua ends up betting on Attila because he's worried that they're not going to win the fight and he wants that money. And it's not so much that Joshua wants to be selfish. It's just that he's seen how it happened with him. I guess he used to be a fighter for Cynthia and she kind of left him out to dry. He ended up getting hurt, and that's why he's kind of like walking with a limp and stuff. Like, he got really fucked up. So he doesn't trust Cynthia at all. And he heard some other things after the video was chopped up with Attila that, this guy kills people. Like, it's not a good thing. So we don't know it at the time, but he's placing his bet, and we kind of figure he's going to go the other way. So for you, like, at this point, like, how do you feel about like a lot of the fighting and the choreography and stuff?
I actually liked it. It was interesting. It reminds me of like a video game, like a Street Fighter video game, for example, Mortal Kombat, or something that's like a fighter, like Smash Brothers, or something, like a Tekken or Smash Brothers, or something unique, something cool, something different. It's almost like they studied like video game combat stuff how to do the fighting in this movie, and that's really cool. And I really like that unique style. If that's how it is, I don't know how they, I don't know how this movie was done when it had a lot of popular movies around that time in the 90s. I was looking at this, and Ashley Johnson was also in Growing Pains the same year as this movie came out. In 90 to 92. She's one of the in season 6 and 7. But it's really interesting what I think, how this, with the fighting and stuff also, because I like how the aspect of the video game aspect. And then you've got they could have studied other karate movies or other genres of fighting movies that they could have studied. I don't know, but I'm assuming Roger Moore was Bond around this time as well. And if so, I'm getting the feeling then that they might have watched maybe The Man with the Golden Gun, the karate fighting scenes there. And that could have been an idea because it was right around that time or a little bit after, if I'm not mistaken. So, I mean, I think Dalton was a Bond at this time, actually, or close.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, in the late 80s. Yeah.
It's really interesting to me, the choreography. It could go either way. See.
Well, it was good that they gave them different settings so that you didn't think it was too copycat. So we were, the street fight on the first one, and then even the pool scene or the Scottish one with the cars. Like they tried to change it up to where it looked unique to each fighting sequence and setup. So even the final fight with Attilla, it's in like a big tent and it's a little bit more glamorous because it's high scale. So you're talking big numbers here. I think they were fighting for like almost $500,000. So it was really big money, and was like something that Russell says, like, if we win, we can all retire. Of course, Russell and Cynthia are betting on Attilla being the winner. So they're kind of like got the secret that Leon doesn't know about and Joshua. But yeah, so after the bets are placed, Leon comes into the tent and he sees the Legionnaires sitting in the audience. So he's like, fuck, he's pissed. Like he knows Cynthia brought them there. It's the only way they would have known about it. So he's there waiting, and Attilla walks in. Attilla, as big as he is, got a suit jacket on and a white beater underneath, but he's got glasses on. He's holding his cat. It's cool. Like he's like the top of the line fighter. He's made his money, and he's the guy to beat really when it comes down to it. And he's also known to like toy with people. So, and I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that he likes to feel out his fighters, his opponents, like to see what they can do. And so as they start the fight, again, Leon starts punching him, and he's actually doing some good stuff. Like I think even Attilla wasn't quite certain, like he didn't expect too much of that. Like he wasn't totally getting his ass kicked, but he was feeling it. Like it wasn't like Leon wasn't making him feel it. And then there is a point where Leon actually kicks him into the audience a little bit, and that's when Attila's like, all right, I've got to put this to rest. Like he's pissed off now. And he gets up, and they start doing some more swinging back and forth, and he finally hits Leon in the ribs where the broken rib is, and he's like, he notices right away, he feels it. He's like, he starts doing this, telling Leon, you made a mistake, my friend, coming in here with that. And, obviously it affects Leon's ability to fight a little bit. So, and I guess in some ways, which is cool, because I watched this fight again, and Attilla could have kept going back to that area, but he never did. It's almost like he was kind of honoring him in a way. Like he could use it when he needed it, but he was basically still just beating him on other areas of his body. But I think he was using his pain to try to beat Leon down. So I do kind of admire that even Attilla wasn't like just going to go right to the weak source every single time. Like it's kind of like I know it's there. I'm going to use it if I need it. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just smack you around a little bit more because I respect you as a fighter.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is when Attila kind of gets the advantage of the fight. He starts beating Leon. He's got him on the ground a few times.
Mm-hmm.
Even when he has him on the ground, we have this first moment where Leon is kind of on the corner where Joshua is. And Joshua's like, dude, just stay down. And in fact, Attila, when he steps on his hand, he's like, you can stay down, just call it. He's like, you don't have to get back up.
Yeah.
So again, it's almost like that respect. He's like, he could have killed him because he's done it before with other fighters, but he's like, just stay down, brother. You're not going to win this. And, that's when Joshua's down, like, don't get up, man. Don't do it. Like, this dude will break you. Don't do it. But Leon gets up and starts fighting again, and still Attila's still beating him down. Fucking him up pretty good at this point. He's managed to get Leon banged up and again knocks him back down into the corner where Joshua is, and we have this cool little scene where Attila goes and he strokes the cat a little bit, picks up a napkin or something, and he's wiping some of the blood that he took from Leon off his face. He's all very proper. He's like very confident. And as Leon is in that corner with Joshua's like, again, this guy's going to kill you. Don't get up. Stay down.
Mm-hmm.
Then he starts saying things like, I made a deal, man. We're good. Even if you lose, we got split 50-50. I've got to cut us a deal. And then he finally just says, all of it's on him. He says, all of our money's on him. Now, this is separate from the money that Leon put down himself, but the money they were supposed to do together is all on Attila. And, at this stage, it's both Joshua feeling really bad, but at the same time, he doesn't want to see this guy die. Like, he's like, just stay down, dude. Like, just do it. But that pisses off Leon. Leon gets extremely pissed. And he's like, fuck this. He says, wrong bet. And he gets up and first thing he does is kick him in the face. And of course, when he gets up, I do like that there's like, the other thing you have to know is Cynthia, when setting up the fight, there's some other high rollers that came in. So she was using Leon as a way to assure bet. So she's telling these high rollers, Leon's going to win this fight. She knows in the back of her head she's voting for Attila, but she's telling them to vote for Leon. But she knows or feels that Attila's going to win the fight. So she's sort of bamboozling them into betting a lot of money on the wrong bet. So the guys that are actually paying for Leon to win, they start clapping. They're like, yeah, come on, let's do it. And then everybody starts getting into it to the point that one of the Legionnaires, Mustafa, starts clapping. So they're all into the fight. Like, they're getting into the fight itself. Mm-hmm. And so once he starts getting up, he does that kick to the face. And that pisses off Attila, but that doesn't really stop Leon. He starts kicking his hand away and really takes the advantage and starts beating Attila up, hits him over by the area where Cynthia's sitting in the stands and continues to fuck him up, and then jumps in there into the stands to pretty much finish off Attila, but he doesn't because, he's so mad. He wants to, but then he's looking at Cynthia and he realizes, I don't want to be this guy. I don't want to be the one to kill some dude because of what this bitch is doing to me or whatever. So he stops what he's doing. He lets Attila go because Attila looked like he was ready to die. He was like ready for it. Uh-huh. But, the Legionnaires take Leon. He's hurt. He's banged up. And probably one of the more sentimental scenes of the movie is when they bring him in front of Joshua. And Joshua is like upset. He's like, because, Joshua, once Leon started fighting and winning, he was really excited. He's happy. Like, even though he had money to lose, he was happy that Leon was actually winning the fight. So when they end up bringing him towards the end after the fight, Josh was very upset. He's like, don't ever lose your heart. Basically don't do what I did. I fucked up and don't become what I did. But instead of Joshua walking away, Leon hugs him And so there's like this nice tender moment between friends, with Joshua kind of crying that, he forgave him basically at that moment, knowing that this guy has been through a lot of shit too.
Yeah, I really like that.
Yeah, go ahead.
I really like that vibe, like how you're saying it. How Joshua, is wanting him to finish him, but he decides not to, and I could see them if they ever, I don't know if they'll ever do a sequel, but I could see them continuing. I could see them having a friendship, Attila and him maybe teaming up. But I mean, this movie, it's hard to say though if this would be a sequel worthy or not, but I mean.
Well, I think at this point, even if they were to do a sequel of any sorts, obviously Leon would have to be kind of like the manager himself. Van Damme's too old now to be doing this kind. I mean, Van Damme's still done some action films, but it's like a very low key. It's not as high energy as you would see back then. So at this stage, I could see them doing it if Leon is actually like in Joshua's place. And
what about a legacy sequel?
Right. And so you would have like a different fighter that he's helping out. Like Leon says, I was once there. I had a friend, Joshua, one time that helped me. I'm here to help.
It sounds like a style of Creed, like the movie Creed.
Exactly. So the Legionnaires take Leon and they're preparing to take him back home to South Africa. But Leon wants to say goodbye to Nicole and Helen. And, obviously Nicole is very upset because he can't go with them. Like the whole idea was to move the family out of their area to a nicer area. And so they didn't have to worry about, paying rent or having issues with crime or anything in the neighborhood. So, but Nicole is very upset, and the Legionnaires can hear her crying from outside of the house. As Leon comes out, there's also a lot of weird things with this, where there's a point where you don't know if Leon just wants to help Helen or if he's actually kind of falling for her, because you kind of get this sense like there might be something that happens with them, whether at that moment or towards the end of their, like, if going forward. So, I don't know. That's anybody's guess for how that relationship would turn out in the end. But as Leon gets in the car with the Legionnaires, like they kind of drive around the block, to which they stop, and the sergeant says, get out. And Leon's like, what the fuck, And so he starts to step out. He kind of realizes, okay, they're going to let me go. And Mustafa kind of stops and says, good luck. They decide that, it's not worth taking him back when there's a family there that loves him. And so that's kind of a cool thing for the Legionnaires to kind of like do a 180, In fact, we kind of saw that at the end of the fight with Attilla, where after they kind of pull him over the bleachers where, the balcony, little show, whatever you call it, the cabinet, I don't know what it was, but the wall. And the sergeant was like looking at Cynthia, he's like, and he had this smile. So it's kind of like going into it, I think the sergeant wanted to see Leon get his ass kicked, but I think in the end, I thought he felt pride that Leon, being a Legionnaire, like kicked this dude's ass. Because I know Mustafa, he was the one clapping. He was actually very excited for Leon, to get back in the fight. But that ending where after he beat Attila's ass, like the lead Legionnaire, he's just kind of like smiling, like, yep, that's one of us. Beat that dude's ass. So I wasn't too surprised that they let him go at the end, because it was kind of like they had a newfound respect for Leon at that point, for what he was doing for the family and whatnot. So then you get this nice tender moment where Nicole is kind of looking out her doorway, and here comes Leon running up the street, to which they all hug, and you're like all fucking wonder what's going on. But obviously they're all happy, and that's pretty much the end of the film there. It doesn't spend, it's only like 105 minutes, but it moves pretty fast. It keeps it fast paced, which is nice. You don't really get lulled into any kind of sleep. You don't really need it to be fleshed out, because everyone, like you said earlier, we know what Cynthia is all about. We know what Joshua is all about. It's all expressed in their acting, so it's like it's not any surprises here.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean that's it's Lionheart in a nutshell.
Do we want to do a review score of this?
Sure. Final thoughts and ratings.
Yeah, fine. You said it best. Final thoughts. I actually enjoyed the choreography, the fighting, um, the kickboxing, um, the action pieces on this film were really good. I think the story felt really well flowed really well also. I'm just, what else can I say about this movie? I mean, I was looking at some trivia. There's some extended version, but
yeah, they mentioned there's like alternate version, but like apparently it doesn't hold like a lot of new content. Maybe just some scenes were extended a little bit, but nothing major. So there's not like any kind of like changes to the fights or anything. I don't think.
I would just, me personally, I would want to see the extended version just to see if they added a more, proper ending other than just, him running home to his.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can argue that since when they come out to greet him, like nobody gets an answer as why he's running up the street. Like, is he running away from the Legionnaires again, or yeah.
Fill in the blanks. Let us, the viewers, know. Like, give us some story background, why he did it. All you know is is it his niece? Yeah.
Yeah, his niece. Yeah.
Why all you know is his niece is crying and. But I think it's probably an 8 out of 10 for me, movie wise.
Yeah. Yeah. So I still like this movie a lot. I know it's a lot of people's like one of their favorites of his catalog. Even though it was like an independent budget, I think it wasn't like a mass release.
I was gonna one thing also I was gonna say, I really like the music for this film. This is one movie like I think his name is
John Scott.
John Scott. He did really good music for this film. I was looking something up about him, and he did. He was also on the soundtrack to Goldfinger from 1964. John Scott. But that's interesting. But I think the music flows really well with the movie also.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so I mean, it's still a very fun film. I hadn't really watched it in quite a long time, but I saw this in theaters when it got released. I had a lot of fun with it. So I mean, I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. I still like it a lot. Very good film.
And upcoming content, or should I reveal what our next review for the show is?
Sure.
So we are covering. I am going with Beowulf from 2007. This is one of my favorite. I think 300 came out the same year, if I'm not mistaken.
Maybe.
I gotta look that up because now I'm thinking. Oh, okay. It was a year before 300. 300 was 06.
Yeah.
Okay. But I am going with 2007's Beowulf. This movie has an all-star cast. I will say that in it, and I don't know. I know you have said you've only seen it once, so I'm sure it'll be fun to revisit it because second opinion. It could be different than what you thought originally. So,
right.
But that's for next Saturday. And then, do you want to go say your stuff first, and then I can do mine?
Sure. So come Monday, a couple things going on. I have another Vintage Cult Cinema episode with Aaron Penn of Cult of Cinema is joining me, and we're going to be doing The Strange Vice of Mrs. Ward. So that's going to be a good film to review with him. Later in the evening, Nick and I will get together for our third episode of the Cultureverse Mindset. It's just mainly talking about entertainment news and just some of the latest things happening. We'll be talking a little about Ozzy Osbourne and his passing, etc. My Ghouls of Midnight pick in the middle of the week will be Humane from 2024. Then Saturday and the early part of the day, before we get to the silver screen in the evening, during the middle of the day, getting together with a friend of mine from Vasectomy, Jason Steffen. We're going to do our top 10 Devin Townsend albums. So we're going to talk a bit of music there. And of course, I'll fill in some stuff throughout the week with some other stuff, but that's pretty much what's already in stone.
I wish I had a good amount. We got this. This is coming up soon. Once I get the intro put together, we can do this show. This will be an actual show. I think he so far Goji thinks it's a segment, like a spotlight thing. Like your guy, I want to do it as an actual show instead of, because you could do a lot of stuff with comic stuff with the show aspect. We got Gears of War coming up. Me and him are going to be in August, in fact. So that's around the corner. Next month is already here almost. In fact,
yeah,
5 days, I think, until August. I have to make intro, outro for this stuff. This is one of our upcoming shows. Me, Geek, Alzilla. He's been asking me when. He asked me the other day when we're doing it. I don't have a date yet set. I got to do the intro, outro. He's got to be patient. Wait. Right. You can't be rushed of stuff. It takes time to do the intros and outros and stuff. You got to build it from the ground up. It's like making a movie in a sense. It's just how, in a sense. And other than that, I have to put intro outro for this stuff as well eventually. But I'm kind of putting that on the back burner for right now. Because, I've got all these other projects also. I'm sure we'll be doing the interview of Bobby. Haven't heard anything on that. I'm sure unless you have, but.
No, I haven't heard anything yet. I'll have to probably touch base with them. You're
saying?
Yeah, I'll probably touch base with them just to get an update, see where we
are. I'm looking forward to that, though, if we can get that done, because that would be really fun to get an interview on the channel out there. And then, other than that, I think that's everything. But, I have the intro, outro for horror stuff for Savants to do. So that'll be a new intro, outro for when we do the horror stuff. And me, you, and Mr. Tony of the Dead, whoever else wants to tag along on that stuff can do that as well when we are on that stuff, when we do that stuff. But I think that's all for me. But this has been episode 19 of Silver Screen Savants. This has been Lionheart 1990. I want to make sure that's right. Okay. 1991 it came out.
Yeah, I think it came out in 90 in France, but in 91 in America. So.
Okay, I'm not going to change it then, I guess. It's close enough.
Yeah, it's all good.
Yeah, that's what Google was saying 1990 or something. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Google needs to update it. But this has been Silver Screen Savants episode 19. Also, I'm sure we'll be getting to the Bond rankings as well.
We'll get back to those too.
Yeah, I might. I might, after my pick, we might go back to Bond, or we might do the other one that I had said. I haven't decided yet, but that's optional, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then also I want to do the Batman rankings with Goji probably next. I don't know if we're going to get to that this year or not, but if we don't, I'm sure that'll be next year. And then eventually also I've talked to you about doing the awards thing on the channel as well. So I want to do that this year if we can slide that in somehow.
Yeah.
I got to figure out how to do that stuff. So
okay.
But other than that, that's all I can think off the top of my head about. But this has been the Silver Screen Savants, episode 19, Lionheart from 1990. We will see you next week on the channel.
Peace.